Hello and welcome back to the Horror Sanctum podcast. I'm Jay with John, Kellen, and TJ. And this week we're also joined by actor Vito Trigo. Vito has been in several films, several Troma flicks, including Eating Miss Campbell, which we've talked about before with Lindsay, Return to Nuke Em High 1 and 2, My Bloody Banjo, and several more. So Vito, welcome to the show and thank you for taking some time with us.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. So we asked you to pick a movie for us to watch, which is what we normally do with our guest. You gave us three options, and we kind of went with the most divisive one, a movie that has divided horror fans greatly. Probably the most division I've seen in the genre in a long time, and of course that is last year's Halloween Ends. But before we get to that, let's talk about Vito a little bit. Vito, tell us how you got into acting and how you got shacked up with Uncle Lloyd and Troma.
Well, I mean, it's just the simple story of a fat, lonely kid who just got dragged into the theater program and found my voice, found a way I could be a productive person, and I just stuck with it. Acting and has given more to me than I think I've given to acting so far, personally. That's just me setting the bar for myself. But I've gotten a lot out of acting, and it's carried me through high school and college, and then leading to Uncle Lloydie. Out of college, there was a few years there where I was stumbling a little bit. I hadn't really found my footing, and my buddy, he was helping produce Return to Nuke Em High, and he was like, "You should come audition. Get off your ass and come audition." It's like, I want you to come to hell with me. So come to hell with me. I need you to come audition.
Now and that was return to Nuke Em High, right?
Return.
Yeah.
Hey, I've been through all the phases. I had. There was a time when it was a return. It was just class of Nuke Em High. Then it was Return to Nuke Em High. It was it was like return to Nuke Em High. Vito. I was like, yes, return to Nuke Em High. Right? So, so I went and auditioned, and the thing that, as me as an actor, was very different was that the audition process for Troma was very come as you are, bring what you want. So I was able to take a theater audition process where I just brought a monologue and just ripped it up. Whereas like in film is like, they want you to read off the script and kind of like, read the character. And sometimes that can be very like, hit or miss. So I just kind of came and I just did it. And then they were like, here you go, you're the lead cretin. And I was like, oh, coolio. So, and that led the relationship with Troma, and spending a month in Niagara, sleeping in a funeral home.
Oh wow!
On the floor of a funeral, on the floor of a funeral home. Excuse me. So,
were you a fan of Troma's work before you got into that?
There was the obvious. I was a fan without knowing I was a fan.
Yeah.
Because you grow up and you watch the Toxic Avenger on USA and then the Toxic Crusaders, and then my buddy Justin, he showed me Romeo and Juliet in college, and nice. I was watching because I had an affinity for Shakespeare, so he was like, yeah, I think you would like Romeo and Juliet. So I was like, okay, we're watching Romeo and Juliet, and I'm like, yeah, I dig this movie. And then there's like a dream sequence where Juliet is like in a tub with a dude, and then all of a sudden, penis monster pops out, and I blow my freaking mind. My mind is blown, and they drag that sucker all around at conventions and here and there, and I'm always like, that freaking thing. I'm like, it just I didn't see it coming, so it just was like,
didn't see it coming.
Yeah, but it's like a benchmark moment where you be like, because like there's just that thing you have like when you see like in The Exorcist when she comes down the stairs and the first time you see Michael Myers, you're like just a little check mark. Okay, yeah. Penis monster freaked me out. So
yeah, for sure. And Michael Myers, the first time you saw him behind that bush and in the clothesline, like that was the creepiest he ever was to me, and that stuck with you for sure. Which that'll segue us into our next thing. So we're going to be talking about Halloween Ends, divisive flick. People hate it, people love it. A lot of people are in the middle, which we'll get there. And I think we'll just rip the Band-Aid off. And Kellen, rant initiated.
So So
Really,
the
you
people,
you had the background and everything. I thought maybe you were like the guy that was like, yeah.
Stolen valor.
I
Stolen
do
valor.
them for every episode so that they know what we're talking about.
Oh, but
And I really debated on putting a poop emoji head over the Halloween.
I almost texted you
Jen's
that before
Michael
we
Myers.
started. Like, you should totally do that because I already know your opinion well.
Yeah, and I've mentioned it in the group chat that we have before. It just, I feel like this movie destroyed everything that happened before. And we've talked before about, what are the true Halloween Michael Myers movies as far as, greatness, and Halloween 1, 2, and H2O, until the new Halloween trilogy came out, that was kind of like that was it. That was, if you just take everything, throw everything else away, that's your story. And so when Halloween came out, I really enjoyed it. I thought, okay, they're getting back to, old school kind of slasher feel, but with a little bit of a modern twist. The plot made sense that, Laurie knows he's still alive, so she's planning for it because in her mind she knows he's going to come back. So he comes back, all of her planning comes to fruition. The daughter, you feel like the whole time she's, against her mom, but then there's that flip where she's like, got you. And, you realize that, she's with her mom. So I thought that one was great. Then they get to Halloween Kills and vomited all over the whole franchise. And they didn't stop when they got to End, which they should have called it Halloween Kills and Halloween Kills the franchise, because that's what this movie did to me. From the moment it started, with that sour taste from Kills in my mouth, I just could not get behind the movie, and it just kept getting worse to me. The whole premise felt like they were trying to do like a Halloween rebirth, which I kind of got behind in the beginning. This kid, they're kind of showing like the backstory of him taking the mantle, and it felt like that's kind of what they wanted to do, but then they were just like, nah, forget that, we're going to kill him. So they spent all this time building up this new character who could, carry the mantle, and then they kill him because, Michael Myers is Michael Myers. But the whole thing that killed me was, it's 4 years later, he just buzzed through the entire town of Haddonfield, just murdering at will. And then 4 years later, he doesn't have the strength to fight off a skinny 18-year-old who takes his mask from him. That doesn't make sense. And the reason it doesn't make sense is because he spent 40 years chained down in an insane asylum. So you're telling me for 40 years being chained down, he comes out fully strong and fully capable of murdering everybody, but 4 years of living in the sewer, and all of a sudden he doesn't have the strength to fight off a teenager? Doesn't make sense. Plus, you have the kid take his mask. That totally demystifies everything about him. He's supposed to be this monster, but they're also trying to make him a man. So that didn't hit with me. The killing was just over the top. It's like they wanted to be a new movie, but they got away from the spirit of the original franchise, of almost stalker-esque feel of Michael Myers, the cat and mouse prey kind of thing that he went through. Just to have all this over the top, unnecessary stuff, all this stupid story that, this kid's traumatized because the kid he was watching died and everybody's hated him, and of course he has the anger to become the next monster, but none of it was believable. It was just a stupid crappy movie. And I hated it so much. And the only part of the name that applied was End, because I was so grateful when that movie ended.
Bravo. Look at that. You got a writer for this episode. So, tell us how you really feel, and then we'll move on.
Like I said, I've talked about it so many times, and I've thought about it, and I sat here and pondered it, and I kept trying to come up with, because y'all talked positively about it, and I just like, maybe it's just me, maybe I went in with a sour taste, and the more I thought about it, the more I was like, no, it's just stupid. It's like they tried to make a 2000 slasher film but used Michael Myers. I can it to the last James Bond movie. I'm a huge James Bond fan, love the franchise, all the movies have been great. And then the last Bond movie, the way I described it, and I think I told Jay this.
One sec. What's your favorite Bond movie?
Goldfinger's probably my favorite, but I have a soft spot for GoldenEye, the first Pierce Brosnan movie, because it has one of my favorite scenes. The beginning when, yeah, go ahead.
Well, and out of the new series, what's your favorite? The Daniel Craig. I need something based off what you're saying. That's what I'm saying. Sorry.
God, I'm so bad with names of films. I could look behind me.
Well, Casino Royale.
Casino Royale.
That
was great. Skyfall. Skyfall was my favorite.
Okay.
Yeah, Skyfall was
the Dark Knight
a cinematic masterpiece. Yeah. But the new James Bond movie, the last James Bond movie, I told Jay this as a action film. Yeah. Well, you'd had time to watch it. That's your fault. Captain buys every movie that comes out when it comes out. But as an action movie, such a great movie. As a James Bond movie, complete trash. They took, like I said, it's the same thing. They took everything that the franchise was meant to be. James Bond always overcomes, and they just threw that away. And if you look at it as a whole, they spent the entire Daniel Craig series just taking a dump on James Bond in every movie in every way possible. It's like each movie they found a new way to just cripple him even more until finally they kill him. Spoilers.
Now it's ruined for everyone. Way to go.
Canceled. But that's what I feel like Halloween Ends was. They took everything that happened before and then they just crapped on it because they wanted to just make something new and fresh instead of holding true to what the franchise was.
So I get that. I completely get that. And I knew your feelings the first time. I thought maybe the second time you might change a little bit.
So you have watched it twice now.
No, I refuse to. That movie's dead to me. Just like No Time to Die. No Time to Die does not exist in the James Bond cinematic universe.
Wait. Hold on a second here, homie. Hold on. I was doing something to guess. I'm just going to interrupt right now.
Go for it.
So so we got Halloween Ends.
Right.
And we got Halloween Resurrection.
That Ends makes H2O. Resurrection's fight scene with Busta Rhymes, or not? Yeah, not Busta Rhymes. No, was it Busta Rhymes?
Yeah, it's
makes
Busta
that
Rhymes.
Look fantastic.
Wow, that's a hot take.
That is a bold ass statement, sir.
That's a very hot take.
That's how much I hate Halloween.
Finally leave, sir.
I would rather watch Resurrection with my eyes pinned open with toothpicks on repeat for the next 48 hours than to have to sit through 5 minutes of Halloween.
I will give Resurrection like points for thinking outside the box, but execution, come on.
Yeah, that was the worst part. I'm still 1-2 H2O. Like I love H2O. I don't care what anybody thinks.
The only redeeming quality for me for Halloween Ends is they finally did something in a horror movie that you always want to do, and they kind of do it a little bit here and there, but they made sure Michael Myers was dead. Like all these, Freddy, Jason, they always just leave the body and then all of a sudden they're surprised that they came back. Jamie Lee Curtis was having none of that. It's like she had watched all those films. She's like, no, we're going to make sure.
Right.
And they did.
Smart.
They did make sure.
I see your points completely. The first time I watched it, I was kind of like most people. I was just kind of sitting there and I thought about it. I'm like, did I like that? Like, I appreciate the attempt of trying to take it in a different direction. I get it's about trauma, big time. One of my biggest things after watching it again, everything happens so fast. We meet Corey so fast. We understand him so fast. The daughter runs away with him so fast. I wish they had introduced his character in Kills. Yeah. Tease him a little bit. Let us get to know him. And this one wouldn't have been quite as fast forward.
Have I told you my what I wish they had done in like the lead up to Ends?
Since they had the deal or not. But you haven't told you haven't told the world.
Okay. Well,
all 20 of them.
I wish that since they had the deal with Peacock and Peacock's all like hungry for content, I wish that they did a few episodes of the aftermath of Kills, like showing Michael's escape, showing the town's reaction, showing how the town fell apart afterwards, and also introducing Corey a little bit in that process too,
Yeah.
Just as him as a character.
Yeah, that would have been nice. Just even when it was the Evil Dies Tonight mob with the irons and baseball bats, like he could have been a part of that. And we know that there's a history there with Michael Myers, but I don't feel like they played on that trauma of the town that well either. You have the Kills where they're like, let's do this, and then the next one, everybody's like dead to the world. Like, they also gathered quite quickly to follow him to his final demise. Like as that parade went behind Laurie in the truck with him on top of it.
There hasn't been an activity in the town for years, man. They all jumped on it. They're like, what, we're going out?
Right.
Let's go.
It's bingo night. No, it's not. It's Michael Myers is dead night.
It's
Like,
barbecue.
You gotta go out.
Let's go. I mean, they were ready to go. They were like, yeah.
Yeah, I think I did learn to appreciate it a little bit more the second time around. Like I said, I didn't hate it to begin with. I probably went up maybe half a rating this time, if anything. But that was my biggest thing. And the first time I watched it, I was kind of upset about how fast I can't remember her name, but Laurie's granddaughter and Corey,
Allison.
yeah, Allison, how quick Allison and Corey just like love at first sight, bullshit. And then after I watched it again, I'm like, okay, their trauma is what's falling in love with one another.
That's
like,
a trauma bond. Yeah.
And so I understood that. That was my biggest takeaway from the first one. And then watching it again, it made me, okay, after I think about it a little bit more, I do kind of get it now, because I can say for myself, we've probably all been guilty to a degree of trying to fix something that's not necessarily fixable, or being attracted to something that's a little bit broken. Me, consider myself a broken person my entire life. Like I am attracted to that as well. Not just in like a sexual sense, but like anything, like not just attraction, like friendships, or, a bad movie I want to rewrite. There's just something in my DNA that can cling to that as well. So after watching again, I totally understood that completely. The whole nature versus nurture, I think that was like kind of the underlining thing of the movie. Yeah, Corey was bullied. We've all been bullied. He was blamed for, I imagine, I grew up in a small town. I imagine having something like that happen to you could be pretty traumatic from that sense. When we look at it from this angle, we're like, yeah, you didn't do it. We know you didn't do it. The people who believe you, that's great. But as someone who grew up in a super small town, Kellen is also from a super small town. If that happened to me, my life would be over, like regardless. So I understand that completely. So and his family was screwed up. I get it. We're all pushed to the brink. Also, upon the rewatch, the 4 kids that are bullying him, one of them's in band. When did band members become bullies? Like, we bullied the band members back then, right?
They were all in band.
They're all in band.
They're all in band.
They're all in band. Because one dude's
Yeah.
wearing a Letterman jacket, but the African American girl was wearing like the outfit.
No,
so they're all in the band.
Changing, man. The football players are they're progressive and conscientious, and it's the band players are like, ooh, we're gonna fill the void. We're gonna fill that void.
Ever since Nick Cannon's drumline, being a band member has been cool.
That's why that kid carried his drumsticks everywhere.
I just thought he was in a cover band, but I don't know, that part I thought was kind of funny, because when we, our age, we grew up, that wasn't how things were. My dad refused to let me be in high school band, so he wanted me to play football. That didn't work out for me either. But overall, rewatching, I understood a lot more. Kellen, I definitely think you should try to watch it again sometime in the future. Maybe I'll ask that for my birthday next year, and just, hey, come over. We're going to watch Halloween Ends.
Time heals all wounds, baby. Time heals
exactly.
all wounds.
And that's what I love about the show too. Is like, we've said it before. Is like, we go back sometimes and watch movies that we haven't seen in a couple of years, and we see new things and we appreciate it less. Sometimes we don't appreciate it as much, but most of the time we get different perspectives.
Here's an example. Did you think Halloween Resurrection was like a piece of dog shit when it came out?
Nope.
No.
One did.
Yeah, it's like,
it was horrible. I mean, it still is horrible. That movie is the worst. Like, I'll watch it, but it is so bad.
I liked like the first 2/3 of it until the whole Busta Rhymes thing at the end, and then they kind of killed it.
It fell apart. It fell apart.
Yeah, it's a product of its time. So at the time, I didn't think it was bad, because that's a lot of the movies. It's like Mission Impossible 2. Mission Impossible 2 is a trash film, but for a early 2000s film, it fits the time. The white dove scene, how over dramatic does that have to be?
That's in every John Woo movie. Yeah.
So
John Woo.
And you got the Limp Bizkit soundtrack.
He had to put his little signature in there, baby.
That soundtrack was legit.
Yeah, the soundtrack's fantastic, but as a movie, garbage. And
well, I mean, that was
like I said, at the time, and same thing with Resurrection. At the time, it wasn't a terrible movie, but in retrospect, now you're like, ugh, no, they did not pull it off.
Yeah. All right, Vito, what were your thoughts on it? Not Mission Impossible 2, but Halloween Ends.
Well, besides my love for Mission Impossible 2, that's besides the point. But
I'm just defending our guest all over the place.
You're not defending me, baby. I'm all about it. I'm all about opposing opinions. It makes the world go round. So it's all good. I had the same feeling when since I'm a super fan, I went in knowing all the little tidbits and the things that people were getting pissed off about, and they were like, "Who the hell is this Corey? Who's Corey?" You know, all this kind of stuff. So I had a pregame of like, okay, this movie might try to piss me off, but I'm gonna be open minded because it's like what, the 13th or 14th movie in the franchise.
14th, I think.
Yeah, they got to take a swing. They got to produce something a little bit different. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go open minded into this, you know. But I really enjoyed it, and I really like. There's so much about it that I upon rewatching it, because I'm somebody that when I will watch something like 10 times in a row if I like it, and then just start picking it apart and start like, even when I like something, I will rewrite something. Like the night that the incident with Corey, when the kid falls down, they do a shot where like, Lori's like driving around and she sees Corey being put into the car. I thought it would be cool if Allison was there too, so she saw him that night, so the connection is even started there.
Yeah, just
the
like
interest.
how I wish it was in Kills. Yeah, that would have been nice too. Just have that little bitty tidbit would have made a big difference.
Yeah, just something where she's already curious about it because of that, because of that night, something like that where you just and I do that thing where I'll like rewrite it in my head, and it's only because I like what's already there, and sometimes I'm like, I wish someone did more, but I enjoy the love relationship in there for some weird reason. I'm all about weird toxic horror relationships. Like I like Hannibal, the movie Hannibal. I like that, I don't know, something about that. So the idea of like this little like these people that were in a way infected by Michael, like Allison was infected by Michael because she was, attacked, and then also her mother was taken away from her. So she's dealing with that. And then Corey is like a byproduct of what was happening in the town at that time, because when he's in that attic, you can't. And this is in my head when I watched it, I thought, wait, is Michael in the attic? In my head, I was like, is he freaking out because Michael's in the attic? It's like a weird little like something with the vision of it. I was like, is Michael in the attic? Is he freaking out? Because that's why he's freaking out, because of the fear of Michael's what makes him like, like, get me out of here, I'll kill you, He's just like, getting really into it. So he's like, because he's like the fear, so there's like so much of that where like they came, like there's like that weird, even though I gotta admit it, Allison was thirsty. She was so thirsty to the point where I'm like, damn girl, calm down. You don't need to be putting it out there that much. You bring it down a little bit. She was really thirsty. So when Dummy was like, hey, you want to wrap up? I was like, man, we both know, everybody knows why she's here, Corey. Pick up the hint, But is it the love angle I was about? I just wish it went different places.
Yeah.
I wish it went to different more. Can we curse?
Yeah. All you want.
Fucked up places. I wish it was more fucked up places where like Allison was like a little bit like kind of riding the dragon a little bit, and maybe she was gonna go bad because because they kind of hinted on that a little bit when they want the town to burn down a little bit.
Yeah,
like I wanted this to go really fucked up.
Yeah. Well, maybe if Danny McBride wasn't helping write it, that might have helped it be a little bit more fucked up. But I like what, and I've said it before too. You said that when you watch things, you kind of separate yourself from what you go in open-minded.
Yeah.
And I think that's very important, especially for whenever they make sequels or reboots. You just kind of have to clean the slate a little bit. And I've said before, the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street would not have been a terrible movie if the other ones didn't exist. But we associate Robert Englund with that character. We always will. We'll go to the grave with him as that character.
Well, they also made him a child molester, not just a child murderer in that movie.
He was always a child molester.
Yeah, it was implied.
He was always a child molester.
But it wasn't outright said.
It was implied on Freddy's Nightmares, but it wasn't implied in the movies necessarily.
Well, because they couldn't say it because actually it was actually there in the original one, but they had to change the wording around because they couldn't, they couldn't put it out there.
I honestly always thought he was, but that's the beauty of open minds, Kellen. Especially when second viewings, it's just go in there open minded.
Well, also they in the Nightmare on Elm Street reboot, they dropped the ball. They were going really hard the first half of the movie, and then they try to be funny Freddy.
Yeah.
halfway through, and it was like, wait, we were being hard edge Freddy, and now you're just trying to be funny. It's like, come on, guys. I mean,
yeah, do one
play
or
it
the
out.
other. You can't do both. Yeah,
Yeah.
Well,
And
because
I
you
loved
have to
Jackie Earl Haley. That's his name that
Yeah.
played him. I love him. Like, he's a great villain in everything I've seen him in.
yeah.
But yeah, let's go over to Johnny Boy.
So
I didn't even say my favorite kill. Or we do that all at the end.
Oh, we'll do that at the end.
Okay, cool. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So, my first viewing of this, I was really hyped about it. I knew kind of a lot going in. Was really looking forward to it. I love kills. H-18 I liked. I thought it was a good sort of Force Awakens version of reintroducing the franchise, the characters. Not the best, but still good. I thought Halloween Kills was, I mean, honestly, I think it's like a modern cult classic. I think in 20 years, people are going to watch that movie. And just the way it's shot and the kills, I feel like people are going to really warm up to it. Yes, it's not John Carpenter's Halloween. It's not Halloween 1. It's not even Halloween 2. But in what it is, I think it's really good. Well, go ahead.
Would you say it's like an Uber version of the actual Halloween 2?
I mean, in a way,
like more action packed, better paced version of Halloween 2.
Well, they definitely have the hospital stuff in there too. That
well, that's it. I could argue that the hospital stuff is the most John Carpenter element in Halloween Kills.
Yeah,
because he likes to put that stuff in there where he likes to put like the hysteria stuff into his like later stuff. Like if you take a little bit like of Village of the Damned.
Right.
That type of stuff right there. He was really leaning into that stuff. I got that vibe from the hospital, Evil Dies Tonight.
Oh, right. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of that. It's a lot of, Michael is Jason Voorhees. He's very much like Jason in that movie. And in Kills, it's kind of like an audience movie, right? You're rooting for him. But yeah, as far as ends go, overall, my feelings on it are a little mixed, but just starting out, I love a lot of the little touches. I love the Halloween 3 homage to the intro with the credits with the blue. I feel like I really like the idea of what he was trying to do with Christine, where Corey Cunningham is like Arnie Cunningham and Christine. They're both kind of like losers, nerds. They're kind of misunderstood. They're not heard. No one's listening to them. And, they're involved with a junkyard, right? Just like in Christine. And they have this turn once evil sort of gets in them, they have a complete character arc, right? It's like a complete 180. And you can even see that at the beginning of Halloween. Like watching it today, I noticed when Corey goes in, he's talking to the mom, and the mom's just not listening to him at all. She's just like talking. She's like, "What are you going to major in?" And he's talking, and it's like they don't hear him. It's like he doesn't matter. But when he locks eyes with Michael in the cave, it's like something changes, right? There's definitely a lot of like things that David Gordon Green was trying to do there and say. Yeah, go ahead.
Or would you say that was like a Halloween 4 element? That was kind of like at the end of Halloween 4, the passing of evil a little bit. Like that, I felt that was a little nod to that, where they a much more expanded version of Halloween 4, where they teased in Halloween 4, but they didn't write it.
Yeah, probably so. It was a little bit of that. I mean, they've mentioned the Christine thing a lot, but that probably is an H4 to Jamie. That's probably an homage to Jamie, really. I didn't mind it. I mean, I like the character of Corey. I feel like he was an interesting character. Overall, the movie, the kills were great. I didn't mind the dialogue either. I know a lot of people don't like the dialogue in this movie. I actually think it fits in ways, like the way Laurie acts. If you think about it, she had PTSD for all these years, right? She was an 18-year-old or a 17-year-old. She goes through this event, and we're ignoring Halloween 2, right? So Halloween 1 happens. She's kind of a hermit. She has a kid. She's preparing for Michael. She goes through all these things. And then when Michael gets away and Halloween Kills, well, what does she do? She kind of just decides, I'm going to start living my life. I'm going to start trying to be my best self. And in a way, it's awkward, right? She says weird things, like when she was like, let your tits out and let it go, like she's going to act weird because she almost is like a child in a way. She never got to be a fully formed adult and go through those cycles, right? So that dialogue kind of works, like even in the grocery store when she sees Frank and she's like, I like your face. Like that's something a teenager would say because they're just not formed, right? So,
well, she's stunted. She's stunted emotionally
Stunted.
because of the
Exactly.
incident. Yeah.
right. And so I like that kind of stuff. And I like those little touches. Like even with Corey's character, I noticed that every time in the movie he's drinking chocolate milk before he changes. And the reason for that, I think, is because it's innocence. He's innocent prior to the cave, and that changes, right?
You can say innocent. I'll say dork, but that's
Dork,
He's
sure.
a dork. He's a dork.
Innocent dork. Yeah.
Innocent dork. Innocent
Absolutely.
Dork.
And you really root for him because everybody in the movie is an asshole to him. I mean, it's not good to kill everybody, but they're all assholes. He's dealing with nothing but assholes. I mean, really, to me, the point of no return for him is the cave with the cop. Like when he gets out of the cave and the homeless guy attacks him, you could argue that he was in self-defense, but when he lures the cop to the cave, and Michael does the Hulk Hogan Hulk up thing or whatever, which is kind of funny. That's it, right? He's already gone full force into what he is. It's kind of interesting though that the way they sort of explain it, like he's passing the evil from Michael's eyes into his eyes. I don't know how I feel about that. Some of it is kind of interesting, but some of it is kind of silly, right?
Well,
I mean, it's a movie.
That is a little par for course because Loomis made such an emphasis on his eyes.
Right.
And you could argue that maybe Loomis was infected by Myers in a way, which is why he's so dead set on going after him to the point where he throws all logic and all out the window. Like, what's this old man with a gun doing chasing this guy? He's like, he should be more with the police, but no, he's like, I'm gonna go get him.
The blackest eyes, the devil's eyes.
Exactly.
Hey.
The one thing that I really did not like in the movie that they tried to say like 3 times in the movie, and I just thought it was really stupid, was they kept hinting at this idea that Michael and Laurie had a romance, that Michael wanted Laurie and Laurie should have given in to Michael, and that she teased that man, and that's why. Okay, like I kind of see what they're trying to do. They're doing a parallel of like Corey and Allison and Michael and Laurie, but I think we can all agree Michael's a psycho. I don't think he's horny. I don't think that's really the way the character is written, but I don't know.
Unless he's killing out
stunted.
A sexual frustration.
Yeah,
you
but
say,
because his first
stunted.
kill, and his first kill was when he was 6. And it was after his older sister just had sex and was still topless.
Yeah, I mean, there is that. I mean, you don't know because, I mean, he does. And there's always that theory in the first one that he is stalking Annie and Annie's the one he's after. And Laurie was just kind of in the way. So it could be sexual, but I just always kind of thought that was the way they reached that in the new film in Hands. I just was like, that's a lot, right? They're trying to make 2 comparisons there that just don't line up to me. But the kills were great. I love the whole sequence where Corey and Michael kill the doctor and the nurse. The music in this movie, like I just, John Carpenter, his son Cody, Daniel Davies, the music in these 3 films is brilliant. And I love that scene where the nurse opens the door. She's going outside to look for the doctor in like his backyard pool area. And you can kind of see the low light where he's like stabbing the guy, but you can barely see it, right? Like that was kind of brilliant. I really
he was like shanking him. He was like shanking him. He was shanking him.
It was vicious, man. But I mean, I think the biggest issue with this movie is that it sort of tries to be 2 different things. And I think it's because of the studio. I think David Gordon Green probably, after Kills, he probably wanted to make a movie about Corey. He probably wanted to just do a movie about Corey. And I actually read somewhere that he actually wanted Michael just to die off somewhere and not even show it. Like he would just die from his wounds. And what happened was the studio obviously wanted the whole final climax of Laurie and Michael fighting each other. So they had to compromise, right? That's the biggest problem with the movie. I agree, Jay, with what you said about the romance. It's a little too fast, right, for me. But I just think it's 2 movies trying to be one movie. And that's my biggest problem with it. I really do like it. I think there's a lot of great things about it. But I just feel like if they would have went one direction over the other completely, it would have been better. I actually wonder, and I was thinking about this before the movie came out, It'd be interesting if they would have tried something like if they did a live movie where it's 90 minutes and it's Laurie and Michael and they're playing like cat and mouse trying to kill each other. And it's just 90 minutes. There's no cuts. Well, there's cuts, but there's no like time passing. It's like them in a house. One of them's going to come out alive. One of them's going to die. And that's the movie.
It's like the last 30 minutes of H2O. Exactly.
Just that's the whole movie. And I don't know if you could do that, but it'd be kind of interesting. So, I mean, overall, I like it. I did think it was a good movie. And I love the throwback at the end with Don't Fear the Reaper. I thought that was great. Just kind of a touch to say, like, in a way, it was almost like saying, Laurie is now the way she was when she was younger, riding in the car with Annie. Her life has kind of come full circle. So overall, I really did like it, though. So
I don't know about you, but I wanted to smooch. I wanted a little something between her and Frank.
Definitely. Yeah.
Frank, just something. Give the guy something. Give him a hug, half a hug. Yeah. I don't know.
Give him a cherry blossom. He loves them so much,
Yeah, ask him about that cherry blossom. He's like, I want some cherry blossoms.
Yeah, I mean, I agree mostly with everything John says, and I think he and I think a lot probably similarly about the movie. I watched it on opening night. I watched it again in the theater. Later, I've seen it. I saw it on Peacock later. I got the Blu-ray. I've probably seen it 5 or 6 times at this point. Every time I watch it, I get some new layers to it and appreciate some things that I didn't notice before. It's not the movie that I was anticipating because I saw it before a lot of the buzz about I knew that there was maybe like a copycat killer or something to do with that idea had kind of leaked out for a number of months, even though I don't try to seek that stuff out. So I had that expectation in my head a little bit, but I was not anticipating this whole Corey being the main thing and him not being in any of the films previously. I think there were little tweaks that the rest of us have kind of touched on that could have made that work better. But I think John hit the nail on the head when he said it's really a tale of 2 films. And it's probably the film that David Gordon Green wanted to make about Corey, which is really kind of an update of the Christine Stephen King story that John Carpenter directed the film of in 1983. Still an homage to Carpenter, only in the world of the first 2 Halloween films that they had just previously made. But the studio wanted a trilogy and needed to wrap up this storyline because they knew they weren't going to have Jamie Lee Curtis for any more films in this franchise. And they needed to wrap it up with a nice bow. And I mean, kudos to them. I mean, they probably have the most epic death of a major horror icon. And at the end of this film, it is a little surreal. It's a little unbelievable that all these people randomly just come out into this parade. But it is also Halloween night in this town that is used to being on their toes. And when you hear a whole parade of sirens, that's going to bring the townsfolk out in a small town. So also coming from a small town, I can take that journey with you. And I noticed this last showing for the first time that I watched a couple days ago. I noticed that they actually show the thrasher thing that Michael gets put into early on in the film to kind of foreshadow it. And I'd never noticed that until the 5th or 6th viewing. So they call their shot. Really, I just thought about it this way today. What's interesting about this film is it really explores, and I think this is what David Gordon Green was wanting to do with this film. It explores the nature of kind of the origins of the evil that lives within Michael Myers that Rob Zombie tried to do in his first half of his remake in 2007. Really, they're trying to do the spirit of that, but in a different character. And that's where the whole evil transfer that's like from Halloween 4, all that kind of happens.
Because you can say that maybe that a young Michael encountered somebody and did that to him.
It's possible.
And then he started that whole like staring out the window and it started from there. Like
Which
he
in the
encountered
Thorn
somebody.
trilogy in Halloween 6, depending on which version you watch, some version of that obviously happened with the cult and all that stuff. And there's so many allusions to all those different storylines and stuff from different Halloweens they cherry pick that aren't part of the, their universe. Their universe is the original and then that trilogy, but they obviously repurpose a lot of that stuff too, from the mask from Halloween 3, the font to Halloween 3, starting it out. And then that looking into the camera and saying, it's Halloween night, we're going to have fun tonight. It's almost kind of a wink to the audience of, this isn't the movie you think you're here to see, but we're still going to have fun. And you're either along for that trip or you're like Kellen and you're like, I wasted my movie,
Incorrect.
my money and my life.
I appreciate you, Kellen. I appreciate you.
So yeah, I mean, there's not much more I can say that hadn't already been said by everybody. I am on the camp that it's not a perfect film. It is kind of a tale of two films that kind of got Frankenstein together, but overall, I like it. I like the story arc of where Allison and Laurie end up from the beginning to the end. So I think all things considered, serving two masters. And I like the storyline. But the only thing I didn't like about Corey is what y'all guys have already talked about is Allison was just way, and yeah, I get the trauma bond, but she was way after him a lot faster than I thought would have ever naturally happened. But I think a lot of that was, they had 2 hours to tell a story, and we didn't get a whole lot of backstory going into this.
Can I bring up an idea with you guys? I mean, those that like the movie, and maybe you can, did you wish there's a little bit more of Allison taking on Michael?
I did.
Like a little bit, like Allison comes in and saves Laurie at one point, kind of like.
Well, I wish she had been more involved in kills. They kind of like handicap her character and just kind of put her out of a lot of the action, and they make her mom kind of be the one that steps up and then ultimately gets killed.
Yeah, that would have been nice. All right, so we'll start to wrap things up. We'll go around. We'll do our same time. We'll do our favorite kill of the flick, and we'll do our rating again out of 5 stars or knives or whatever. Just 5. I'm already talking, so I'll go ahead and say I think my favorite kill was when he killed the DJ, and then he cut his tongue out, and it dropped on the record. And they're, she's Allison's listening to the car. You hear it skip, that skip. Like, what is that? I loved that kill. I was also the kid in the very beginning that sets everything up. That was very brutal, and it was very fast, and we weren't expecting it. So I appreciated that as well. After watching it again, I think I probably originally gave it like 2.5. I'm going to boost it up to 3 because I can see different angles. I see what they were trying to do, and like you guys said, studio versus director, it's never going to turn out right. Just like Spider-Man 3 is like my biggest example of that. So I'll give it a solid 3. Kellen?
As far as favorite kills, I think it's probably when the credits killed the movie. The ending when the credits came on and killed that horrible piece of garbage. No, there's one kill in it that stands out because it was such a good homage to the original Halloween, and that's Nurse Deb. And I think that they did that very well if they had fleshed out what they were going to do with Corey. I think if that was the storyline they were going for, I think they should have introduced him in the first film. Maybe he could have been a young friend of the daughter. Maybe she does witness what happened to him, and she has sympathy for him because of the horror that's afflicted her family that she's aware of, or the trauma. And I think you flesh him out a little more over the 3 films, so it becomes more clear why he would go after Michael. Like y'all said, it was rushed. But that scene where Corey's watching Michael kill Deb the same way he killed Bob, it's a little more drawn out for emotional effect so that you can see that Corey isn't fearful of it, that he's drawn by it, intrigued by it, even with the head tilt that Michael does as he steps back and observes his work. Her making eye contact with Corey is kind of, a good scene of saying, his humanity's gone. He's not fearful, or he's not sad seeing this woman die. He's intrigued. So definitely Nurse Deb, because it was just it was such a good callback, and it was actually done really well. It wasn't over the top. It wasn't multiple stabs. It was just one stab, pins her to the wall. You cut back and forth between her and Michael and Corey. So shining light in the movie.
Right. What was your ranking?
Oh, a 1. Obviously a 1.
Obviously.
Only because 0 just sounds terrible. I don't want to not give them credit for making a movie.
I thought you were going to give a negative.
He would have if we would let him. He would if we let him. All right, Vito, what was your favorite kill and what was your ranking on the movie?
I would go Corey. Corey's death was my favorite because it was a straight up Michael kill. And I kind of liked what was going on in my head when it was happening. It was like, you son of a bitch, you didn't get the job done. I'm going to take this back. I'm going to show you how it's done. I'm old, so I ain't going to help it happen. I give it a 3.
Okay.
Give it a 3. I still have issues with it, but 3.
Yeah. All right, John, favorite kill in your ranking?
Favorite kill, probably, I do agree the tongue kill is great with the DJ. That actually, if you look at that, and I noticed this today, when his face hits the turntable, he looks so much like the nurse in Halloween 3. Not the nurse, but the lady in Halloween 3 in the hotel, where the mask like zaps her and the bugs start coming out of her mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I wonder if stylistically they were trying to mimic that. It was interesting. But as far as favorite kill, definitely the blowtorch to the face for the bully. That was brutal. Like I saw the behind the scenes of that, and he was even worse, like the way they shot it. But I really overall I do like the movie. Halloween Kills is definitely my favorite of the franchise. This one though, I think if I'm gonna rate it realistically, I'm giving it a strong 3 out of 5. I really like it, but I do think I gotta take 2 points off just because it's got problems, and it's a tale of 2 movies. So,
yeah. All right, TJ.
Man, I don't really dislike any of the kills in this movie. It's hard to pick one. I mean, to have not been the film in the franchise called Kills, the kills in this movie are so much better than in the movie Kills. They're more elaborate. I really love the one. I mean, I gotta go favorite. I gotta go the one where the kid just dies epically at the beginning, because that lets you know what kind of movie you're in. I mean, that lets you know what kind of movie you're in. But I'll say honorable mention. I mean, the one that Jay picked is amazing with the tongue, but also the head squashing at the junkyard that Corey does was surprising to me.
Yeah. All right. What's your ranking?
I'm going to go, and I've thought long and hard about this, but I'm going to go 3.5. I feel like that's fair.
He gave it an extra 0.5 because they killed a kid.
That's accurate, actually.
All right. So numbers, that's going to be like a 2.7. So we're going to call that one a 3, since one of them was a little bit skewed. But all right. That's going to be it for this episode. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscribe to us wherever you're listening to this podcast. We would greatly appreciate it. And follow us over on Instagram as well. Vito, thank you so much for joining us. We will definitely have you on again sometime. Go give Vito a follow. Check out his movies. Everyone I've seen you in, I adore. I'm a huge Troma fan anyways. So we appreciate your work for sure. All right. I'm Jay with John, Kellen, TJ, and Vito. And until next time,
keep it spooky.